Right. So then, interesting one today. So I've been for the last like 2, 3 weeks been playing this new game, DUNE Awakening, come out, and honestly, it's been an interesting ride. There's a lot of positives and negatives, and I think I want to go through them. Is it worth the amount of money that this game costs? I don't know because I don't know the price. I think this game's like $70 Australian. And I'm towards the like I'm in the like mid to late game transfer because I'm in like late game Duralinium, which is just above like aluminum based stuff. It's tier 5 Duralinium, and I'm in very early Plastinium, which is the tier 6 resource. So I was thinking we go through my story, how I've experienced this game, and what I think could definitely be improved on, because there's a bit, because this game, it's not like it's in early access. This is a full release game that has had a 26 gigabyte update the other week. This game came out of early access. It didn't have an early access. It had an open beta test. That was all they had. It's in full release. It's been in full release. There's a lot of flow towards the game and a lot of mechanics that are easy enough to figure out as you go along. I'll also give some tips that I've found out that will really help you early game once you get into the Iron tier 2. But without further ado, I think we start my story. Alright, so we're coming up to the start of my story, which is down here in the Haga Basin South, which is where you start the game. This is where I first loaded into the game, around this area. And I am currently flying the Scout Ornithopter, which is a late game aluminum tier vehicle. So I started around here with my friend, which got me the game. So without the price in mind until the end, I'm going to just give my honest opinion. Because I don't actually know the price. I have to go to the page and look. That's a sandstorm. Oh joy, I'm gonna have to make. So I'm gonna go head over to my first base, where the first base was located, and quickly not get hit by a sandstorm. So I'll join you when I'm back from the sandstorm attacking me, because that is definitely going to hit me. Okay, so I've just made it over to where the trade post is, just because I'm going to use it to hide. And there's one of the issues you just in there. When everything goes low poly, the game has some rendering issues, where the game will decide that you won't have the area load properly. It fixed itself pretty quick, which I'm happy about, because the process that I've had sometimes getting the land to generate properly at the moment, and when that land doesn't generate properly, it causes problems with the physics, because it tries to get you to fall through the mesh because the hitbox isn't set properly. Alright, and here's where the first base was. Now this base wasn't designed by myself or my friend. It was found abandoned. The game is having an absolute moment with me right now. Yeah, the game is a little bit buggy still. I would love to go up here. So it was right here in this gap. It was a 3-story build. It was a 3 or 4 story. Can't quite remember. But it would come up to here. There'd be a door, and then there'd be a door down there. A great early game base, which I would recommend being at least in this rock. So over here, where the trade post is for this region. So whenever you start a game and you go into whatever server, you will spawn in this area, and I would recommend trying to make your way here. Now when you start, you're not going to have any vehicles, and walking out into these larger sand gaps will attract the sandworms. I suggest running from point to point and avoiding the wreck of Alclon, because this is a PvP. That area isn't PvP, but it is the most difficult part here in the south part of the base, due to the fact that that is one of the end parts of the story when you get here. And I would recommend making a base in this region. There's a lot of people that do it. It's a great early game base zone until you get the Mark 1 buggy, which is, I believe which is a copper. You get it unlocked first set. So you go from tier 0, which is like scrap metal, which this place has plenty of, to tier 1 with copper, which is the only thing that can spawn here other than the starting building material, granite. It gets used later with basalt in the later game to make plastone, which is used for more decorative building styles, like all the blacker type building. And the start of the game was alright. I should be able to find clips. I'm not going to actually like show them here because I'm not going to go digging for it, because I did do a stream on this game and it is exported to YouTube. And I don't want the copyright claim. But yeah, as you can see, there's quite a few bases. Yeah. And this starting area gets you used to the game, used to the sandworm mechanics. And then once you get to the tier 1 buggy, yeah, the point where you have to go across this gap. And when going across this gap, I recommend starting from the trade post here. There's a little trail that goes here, and then going straight north to that island. If you have a booster, it is not required but recommended. And if you do not get about halfway before the sandworm appears, like say you get out to here and the sandworm appears, immediately turn around and head back, because you can die in this game because it is PvP. And if you die to the sandworm, you lose all your items and progress, meaning you have to remake all your weapons, all your tools, and fan bike, because it will get gone. But if you die to anything else, you will drop anything that is not a quote-unquote equipable or usable. So then we make it over to here. And the story continues, but I won't ruin much of the story because I did a lot of the story later. And you'll get to the corrupt territory. And there's another trade station just over there where you see all the bright lights. That's another trade station. But I actually found a second base over here. So just in here, when you come in here and you go along here, in this little strip, there was a base here that I claimed that isn't here anymore, obviously. That I also believe is on Twitch. The big upscale modified one isn't, because I modified. It was about double the size of you. And that has your good, like, it did well to the mid-game area when they started needing to focus on aluminum and duralumin. Because in this area, you unlock iron and tier 2. For tier 3, you have to go up north again to get to the aluminum area. And steel, which is carbon, which is closer than aluminum. But there is another base that we have while we were starting this that's actually surprisingly survived. Wow, this one has held up. So yeah, this little wooden base here is one of the bases. too far off the edge. You can see that's iron ore just there. If we run back up here, I'm surprised that the base is cleaned. It's probably out of power. No, it's all surprisingly. Oh, it's still got a day of current on it. So this base will, so if anyone sees this video and manages to get into the server that I play on, this space will become available in roughly a day or two. Because after so long of the subfleet being turned off, it will declaim the base, and probably a good mid-game base, because it has quick access over into that region, which is where you get carbon, which mixed with iron, you get steel, which is your tier 3 resource. And it's got a lot of expandability to it, because if I pull out, this is, if I go here and I pull out this tool, this shows the claim area. You can see this little blue box that I'm in is the current claim area of this base. You probably can't expand it due to so many bases being close by, but it definitely bigger. And as you get into aluminum and like towards late aluminum, you will need to have a decently sized base, because you'll start getting into larger and larger. Because there is a vehicle that is probably twice the size of the Thopter. And at about this point of the game, there was some stuff that was a little annoying. So in this area, there's a lot of sword goers with shields, and the only ways to break their shields is to use a knife or sword yourself, any melee type weapon, and you have to get them into a stun lock, which either is them draining their energy, attacking you, blocking, or you hold down left click to do a charged attack, and if that charged attack hits them, it stuns them. You then have to proceed to do another attack, and it will start attacking their shield. If you can get through the shield before they dash, or you get attacked, which will cancel this, you will either kill them in the first shot, or you will have to do it probably up to at least 20 times. I think I had an enemy recently that I'm pretty sure survived 20 hits with my sword, and they had a shield. And there are a few other enemies here. There's also a minigunner enemy which should not have a shield, but they will sometimes have a shield. And with the way that these shields work, if I just say pull out this weapon and I shoot, the shield turns off for a second. So when enemies are firing at you that use weapons and have shields, their shields turn off when they fire. While they're reloading, though, the shield will turn on. It is one of the easy ways to deal with mid-game enemies, especially when you've just arrived here for the first time. What's really annoying is that if you get multiple enemies, you will run into the problem of, if you get multiple melee enemies, that you can't kill a single one of them. And that if you were getting shot while having a shield yourself activated, it stops you from sprinting while you're being shot. It's a pretty dumb mechanic, I don't understand it. But anyways, moving on. So you get through iron and you start having to look for steel. You have to come over here, and it's recommended to start from over there, like over where that building is, and then coming down, and there's a little strip over to that cove. And the only reason why I say to go to that part is because there's quicksand here, which will eat any land vehicles. My Thopter won't be affected by it because it'll go into a hover mode. Thank you, Sandworm. So we're getting into the point where we're starting to get to steel, and with steel you need to get something called cobalt paste, which is found from jasmine ore. And the only place to get jasmine ore is in here. In here, where all these mineral extraction facilities. And you're going to want to bring storage with you, because jasmine weighs a lot. So all along this cavern in the sand, you get all of the jasmine crystals, which turn into cobalt paste. Not to mention, you will also need water, for this game evolves around water, and your water production it'll be very hard to get it to begin with. You'll need to kill a lot of enemies and extract their blood. But once you get into the later game, water does still become a worry, but it's not as much. So say you get through, right, so that's the tier 3 steel. This area you have to come back to for a story item. Eventually. So now you're like, okay, well, where do I get aluminum? Which is your tier 4 resource, which also goes into tier 5. And aluminum is actually pretty easy. So there's this cliff over here, known as the Eastern Shield Wall. And in the Eastern Shield Wall and surrounding areas in this part of the map, past this cliff, you will find very commonly aluminum. There's a lot of carbon. Yeah, this one. But you can also find it here. It likes to show up at altitude for whatever reason. But yeah, this ore is aluminum ore. You would then refine that into aluminum, and you have your tier 4 resource, which is hefty because to make aluminum it is 7 of the ore, which is really heavy, plus some. And then you get to the point where we're at, which is Jasmine, which you have to go all the way over to Shoal, which is all, I'm not going to head to it personally, but it's all the way down here in this radioactive field. You will need irradiations. If you don't wear radiation soon, you will die very quickly. Also, when you go to get irradiated slag, please attempt to bring a friend, because it is extremely difficult to kill those enemies there, because not only do they have shields, but they will kill you in 3 seconds, even with the gear that I have. You have to be very strategic and most likely bring a friend. But at the time of building this, I had a base here that I built. Obviously, you can see two tiles remain of it at this point, but it's been decaying over the last half a week, and it's almost fully decayed. And this was only using the granite material. It isn't as strong. If you use plastone, it's a lot stronger. So we, at this point, had met someone called Dat Steven in this, which operated this base over here, which he has now moved. I am not sure where he moved because he's not relevant in the story. But he had this base, and he moved because his spot that he wanted for ages was available. So we acquired his base, and he took all the building resources. So then we acquired his base, and we are currently in the late Duralium stage, which requires the Jasmine crystals. And if you want to go to tier 6, you'll have to go to the deep desert, but that I will focus on a bit later. Still quite a few mechanics here. Because first off, there's another vehicle. There's 2 vehicles. This little one over here is the sand bike. This is what you unlock earlier game, and it can have a booster or a storage on the very back here. And it can have a scanning module on the very front, this bar here. The Scout Ornithopter can have one, which is your first tier vehicle. This guy down here, it can have storages or boosters in that slot. You need to make 4 wings for it. The chassis, the body, the cockpit, well as the engine and power supply, because most things are and then we come to this. This is the vehicle that you will want. This vehicle you will want to have around when you're trying to go for steel, because when you go grab the carbon, you want to bring a lot of it, which is where these vehicles come in, and mining lasers. So these are the buggies. These are the stage in between the sand bike and the thopters. You get them at steel. You get them like towards like steel products. So the first couple of runs you will have to do by hand, but then you'll get these vehicles. and those vehicles will help out a lot. And there's a vehicle that can actually, so these vehicles, so with the sandbike and the scout ornithopter, you can pick it up with this little vehicle backup tool, but you cannot store the buggy or any other vehicles that I show you. There's one vehicle that I don't even have. So if we quickly go up here into the upstairs hangar, you'll see this vehicle. It's a lot bigger. It is the Assault Thopter. It has 6 wings and 4 seats. You can have 2 people sit in the chassis, and you've got a pilot and a co-pilot. Now, the storage on this actually does matter. So on the Scout Ornithopter, with its storage bay, you can only hold 500, whereas this can hold 1,000. There's no upgrading them, so once you unlock the vehicle, you can unlock the storage module, and that's it. Difference between these two is that this uses a lot more fuel and has an equipable boost at top center. You don't have to swap the storage for the things. There's also another unique thing, the rocket pods. Rocket pods can go on this, or there's a scout variant that can go where the storage goes on the sides there. They will, and it's useful later on, not really right. Yeah, so far, game's looking pretty good. It's got great graphics, it's got a storyline, it's based off of a movie and a book. I don't know too much about them, but there are a couple of problems with the game. One thing is that you can randomly crash. The game will have a moment and just crash. I believe it uses Unity's game engine, so expect crashes. Another thing is there's going to be downtime. So once a week, they do what they call the paralysis storm, and that storm comes through. It randomizes the deep desert, which I'll be onto in a second, and it comes through and restarts the server. And that's when important patches come out once a week. It won't reset this map. This is the Haga Basin. You would have seen initially as I was flying from here all the way over to the start. And that's really about it for the Haga Basin. So I should go fly over to the deep desert now. So you can't go to the deep desert very easily. Instead, you need a Thopter, so at least the Scout Thopter, because you need to fly out of the map bounds. And the map bounds are protected by either very large cliffs, or on the south side, it has a lot of quicksand that is completely impassable. The deep desert, you also need a Thopter to traverse easily because of the way it's designed. It is designed for air travel because it is about probably 3 times as big as the basin. Actually, no, I think it's twice as big, which is like 4 of these maps put right next to each other. So the first wreck that I showed isn't PvP, but any other wrecks that you see outside of the south side are PvP. As you can see, my zone was going to change because I just went into the PvP section for a second there. There's also other stuff, like that's a research facility. Be prepared when you go into these buildings, because there are a lot of enemies. Sometimes you can get around them, sometimes you can't. Just the aim of the game. Ignore that. That's a moment that they've still got to fix, where they've got a barrier around the map instead of letting you just glide. You ram into it before you load out into this. So each server, there's like server groups, and each of these server groups have sub-servers. You connect to a sub-server, you can only see the people in your sub-server. And then when you leave the Haga Basin, you leave the main server and join this server, which is still connected to them. They all communicate with each other. You connect to this server, which allows you to go to Akraz. There's a wreck that you eventually unlock here, and another trading place straight south of this. One other thing that's a useful tip is that With this, depending on the direction that you enter, will put you on that side of the map. So if you enter from these two, you'll get put into the top left quadrant. You enter from these, top right quadrant. You enter from these, you get put on anywhere on the south side. That is important because if you live on like the very edge and you want to all of a sudden go to the opposite side of the basin, you just come out here, go all the way around, and then back in. The basin, oh god. One thing to note is that there are a fuel and a water meter. These will refill every time you enter here, and they do not go off your thought. This is a thing only here. So here's the deep desert, and I'll casually fly around the trigger because why not? Yeah. So these lines are where the trigger are. This is where the deep desert is. So let us go into it. So this place resets weekly. Another thing about the deep desert is that if you build out here, all prices are 50% off building costs. And you get an 100% refund if you destroy anything here. You only get a 50, and then if you get a certain perk in the research tree, you can get a 75 withdrawal on the resources in the basin. The basin stuff is permanent, however, if the week comes up and these people do not deconstruct and move back into the Haga Basin for the short period of time they are, these structures will disappear next week. Like this massive base that actually looks pretty good, this will be gone. It also looks like someone built this out of plastone. What a dumb guy. You shouldn't really build out of plastone when you're here, just build out of granite. It's much easier to make. Much easier to make if you just get it. This plastone you have to mix water, basalt, and granite together to get plastone. Well, it's a lot more expensive, but the durability is there. So I might as well go for this. Gracious. If I can park here and stand in the shadow now. So with this is the deep desert and its maps. Kind of exit along the south. It goes across from one, goes through from A through halfway through the alphabet, and this area constantly resets, and you have this like sand fog. So if you don't travel through the area, a taxi service. I think if you die here, so when you die here, you drop all your resources, and you can respawn here, as well as there's also sandworms. Once you get down here, like there's a little area and you can go off of it. This is sandworm territory. This is completely safe other than shipwrecks, which you need to eventually get for components. So then you go all the way up through here, and now this is where most spice happens. Now, if you're Australian and you join one of the Australian servers, Oceanic, you will most likely not run into people who are aiming to completely like kill you and stuff. Like they won't normally PvP unless provoked. Once you get out to about here, I'm pretty sure you will enter a PvP zone. So half of the deep desert is PvP. Well, the other half is still PvP, excluding shipwrecks. Shipwrecks are always going to be PvP other than the very first one. As these are non-compliant shipwrecks, you don't have to go here for them. But then if you get all the way out to like the out to I, that's the very end of the deep desert. And that's where you'll see these big medium spice fields, which are craters from deceased sandworms who explode. Why they explode, I don't know, or you'd have to consult the film. And these areas you can collect spice sand from, which is useful in tier 6, which you can also get the components here. So for tier 6 with plastinium, you need two resources, titanium and stradivium. And both of these resources can only be acquired here in the deep desert. So you'll most likely want to bring a storage pod. And be wary of other players if you go into the PvP sector, which you will get more resources for. Look at that guy go. He's gonna be going for a run. So with Australian servers, very friendly. Don't provoke them, they won't provoke you. There are circumstances where they will still attack you if you exist. Because why not? Good lord, someone is trying to make communism happen. So with the deep desert, there are sandworms, obviously, and PvP. There's not too much wrong with this. This area is pretty nichely coded. My problem comes to when you use the... So if I go to this tab and I go all the way down to plastinium, there's this vehicle, carrier. So you would think this would have like storage, but so the obvious thing about this can haul vehicles. So this can haul your buggy, assault thopter, and the spice harvest. Where is the spice? Here, the sand crawler, which can harvest spice and only spice. So it can't harvest sandflower to make silicone, which is something that you can find everywhere. It's like a white, steamy thing that you probably see. And this can only harvest... It can only harvest spice sand, which is the purple sand that I showed while I was traveling over to the south side in the Haga Basin. And with this, you can't with the carrier, you can't transport items that are attached to it or carry people. Because when you go out into that world map, you have to be the driver, and you cannot go out into the world map if you have anyone else in your cabin. Which is fine for the scout, because the scout thopter has a 1 capacity. The assault has 4. Pilot, co-pilot, and 2 passengers. But with the carrier, it can hold 1 person driving and 5 other people in its cabin, this part of the cabin. Includes seating for pilot and 5 passengers. You can't transport passengers to the deep desert. This vehicle also does not have storage, so you can't even carry them. Random person came and said hello. So you can't even carry people through. You can't carry people through to the deep desert or vice versa, but you also can't carry vehicles, like the buggy or the... You can't carry the buggy over the spice crawler. So you have to disassemble your vehicle and bring it across in pieces. Reassemble it here, refuel it, because if you disassemble it, if it has fuel in it, it'll lose its fuel. Reassemble it here, and then get your carrier to pick it up, and then you can move it. It can't move in between the bases. And it's very terrible, because there's ways to get around it where you can just look for things attached to it, and people attached, and bring them across. It's one of the things that I don't like about the game. The carrier is essentially useless. As well as, a lot of the time, you will most likely need to bring an armed regiment with you. So you'll need 1 person in the sandcrawler, 1 person flying the carrier, and then 1 or 2 people in either an assault thopter or a scout thopter with the rocket pod module for defense. Because there are going to be those people that just PvP for the hell of it. And I myself, I don't give a shit about PvP. I'm in for the grind of the game and the story and all that. I don't care about fighting people. So you always have those people. As well as when you want to bring stuff back, you're not doing that with the carrier. The carriers can't store anything, can't transport people from the Haga Basin to the deep desert or vice versa, and it can't carry vehicles from the deep desert to the Haga Basin or vice versa. You have to disassemble your vehicle and reassemble it here. But the worst part about it is that if you get the Mark 6 cutter rare, it allows you to mine titanium and stradivium. But to get a buggy here, you have to assemble it here, and then at the end of every week, disassemble it and bring the components back. Another thing about this game that I don't like is that there's quite a few bugs still in the game, and this isn't early access. So, in the time that the game has had 2 GB updates where it fixes a lot of things, and then it also had a 26 GB update a week or two ago, which fixed about 100 different bugs. Some things that I would like to see in the game is a storage on the carrier, because there's definitely room on the carrier to have storage. Because if you look at the so if I go to here and I go down to the carrier, so this part is where all the passengers are stored. So this is the main hull. This doesn't have any storage. There's a chassis, there's the engine, there's a generator, there's wings, there's a tail, and there's side hulls, which go on either side of the main hull. And why can't these be storage, right? Like, definitely looks like you've got the room there, and there's no, like, thrusters there, because all the thrust happens from the top center, which isn't actually shown. Oh no, so on the side you can see that there's 4 little emplacements there. That's where the flight is. What's saying that there can't be a storage there? Because there's no engine there. There's no engine behind that cover. The engine gets installed. The engine gets installed in the center of the. You also get a thruster for the ornithopter, which goes to the top center. But there's in this tier there is no storage for it at all. So you can't haul items with it, you can't haul people with it, and you can't haul vehicles across, even though it is the carrier. It carries the vehicles. So it is decently useless at the current point. I would like to see it a lot more useful, because at the current point, it is a glorified gas guzzler. It will drink fuel cells like my assault thopter that I have guzzles fuel. And that's a lot. So, my honest opinion about the game, let me quickly grab my thopter, because I'm going to sit here, pause the game. I'm going to go open Steam, and I'm going to go to the store page and see what the price of the game is. So this game costs $74.95. And there's a deluxe edition and an ultimate edition upgrade. And the ultimate edition upgrade does not include the deluxe edition items. So you can't just buy the ultimate edition. You have to buy the deluxe edition to get all the deluxe edition items, and then the ultimate edition to get all the ultimate edition items. So with the deluxe edition upgrade, you get a season pass, which includes the first 4 DLCs for Dune Awakening. So there isn't even like actual DLCs out for it right now. and you get a Sakura Botana armor, which is just a skin for $30. And for another $30, you can get the Ultimate Edition upgrade, which has a 90-minute digital soundtrack, a digital art book, which is 50 pages of artwork from the game's development. You get DUNE 2021 film still suit, which was a still suit worn by one of the actors in the film. Granted, it's probably just a replica that's very cheap, so don't expect it to be worth much. A Kaladin Palace building set, which gives you buildable items. So you have to pay just to get some. You have to get to be able to build certain things, which is buildables and placeables from the 2021 film. A blue dash Ornithopter swatch, which is a unique color pattern, which I believe I have both of these, because I know I have stuff, so I don't know what exactly I have. I don't think I have. Yeah, no, I don't have these DLCs. The Dusk Rider Sandbike swatch, which is a unique color pattern for the Sandbike. The Sakura Botana armor. And the Season Pass. So you can buy the Ultimate Edition and get the Deluxe Edition, but when they market it, they put the Deluxe and Ultimate Edition inside each other, and the Ultimate Edition has everything the Deluxe Edition has, by the looks of it. But that doesn't mistake the main game. So the main game costs $74 in Australian. It is $74.95, so $75 Australian, which is probably around $60 American. Which is pretty high for a game that originally wasn't... It, like, doesn't fully work, the game. The game doesn't fully work. It's got a lot of bugs, and there are some vehicles that aren't even practical making. For at least a solo player. Like, for a solo player, no point getting the carrier or the sand thing, because you need 2 people just for that alone. As well as you need a third person, so it can't even be really used as a duo if you want to play it safe. I mean, it could be done as a duo, but it'd be really difficult, because if you start getting attacked out there, your duo has to get out of the spice harvester, get a scout thopter with rockets placed down from their backup tool, and then get into the air and start attacking them while the carrier has to grab the the spice harvester and start flying away with evasive maneuvers. And the carrier, it's not that maneuverable. So I would definitely like to see a bit more worth for the carrier thopter. At least give it a storage. Potentially make it to where you can put a storage on it, but then you can't haul vehicles. Swap the vehicle building, like being able to pick up vehicles, for a storage module. That would be great, considering that, like, an attachable module to it that prevents you from then picking up vehicles, because you can't carry vehicles through the way anyways. Or make it to where people in the thopter, and if you've got something attached to it, can go from the Haga Basin to the deep desert as well. Like, you can carry people there, because it would make it a lot easier. Because then you could be in the carrier, you could come over to the deep desert, you could fly over to where the PvP zone starts, land, let your buddies out to get into their vehicles of choice, or they bring their assault thopters if they want to bring an assault thopter. Because then you could have 2 buddies sitting in assault thopters, pilot and co-pilot. I don't know what the co-pilot does, but I hope it actually does something. Yeah, like, look and chat. You can't passenger someone from deep desert to Haga, but you can take him to the deep desert taxi service. So you would have to then taxi service people here if you wanted to only bring 1 vehicle. Like, you were 2 people and you've got 1 assault thopter, and that's all you've got. You would then have to drop your guy off at the taxi service. He would have to pay to get flown out to the deep desert and then picked up at the deep desert. And he'd have to wait here for a couple of minutes as you manually fly over here, because for them, it's an instant cutscene travel. For you, you have to fly to the border, fly over here, you get randomly assigned to one of these spots, and then have to fly to their spot where they've come from. So all out, I honestly can't say an opinion for everyone, but I think the game, even though it's still very broken, is a decent game. Early game. Late game, it gets very unfair with the NPCs. So it's not that great of combat. Like, you really just get annoyed at the PvP in the late game, because you're constantly getting owned by 10 people at once. Like 10 enemies all lock onto you, and then they all start firing at you, and your shield breaks immediately, and then you die in 2 seconds. That part of the game isn't so fun. When you're out here, depending on the people who are out here, it's alright. I definitely think the carrier needs to be completely recoded so that you can bring people and a vehicle of choice to the deep desert, because it would make stuff so much easier. You wouldn't have to disassemble your vehicles. Considering that this place resets every week, so every week you'd have to disassemble your vehicle, fly it back, grab a vehicle with storage, come back, grab all your stuff here, fly it back, and you'd probably end up doing 2-3 trips of those. Where you fly here, fly back, fly here, fly back, and then you'd be able to fly back, and then you'd be able to log off for the day, and then the very next day you'd have to come out here, set up your base, place down the stuff, get your carrier, or at least get the vehicle, get your like spice harvester out here, and then you'd leave it here until you need it, on a week that you would need it. Because it's definitely not worth coming out here every single week and doing that, because that's just tedious. So I think that's my opinion on the game. Dune, I haven't seen the book or the movie, so I can't really give an opinion on accuracy. But the game so far, it definitely needs work. It needs improvement, because some of the features aren't really features. Like the carrier, it can carry vehicles, but it can't carry them across zones. And it's not useful at all if you're a solo player. And it's extremely hard if you are a duo. You pretty much have to be a trio, or the carrier to be worth it. What I would suggest, add a storage to it. That would make it solo compatible, because then you just have a storage, you can just take it out. And if you want to go harvest spice with it, you can just risk the fact that you could get blown out of the sky. Or give it rockets. Give it the option to have modified rockets on it, so that you could potentially have a bit of defense on it. Or just make it to where you could potentially have, like, chaff or something, some sort of way to get the rockets to not hit you. Like, there's lots of things that they can do to the game to make that better that they haven't done yet. And with the game having a 26 gigabyte update, I'm not sure if it's worth, because the game size, when I first got the game, was about, I think it was 60 gigabytes. 60 gigabytes for the game. But just this, keep in mind, for whatever reason, when I got Dune, I also got the test client, which it tried to install, which is 37 gigabytes, and has all 73 achievements as well. So once you 100% this game, you would have to then download the public test client, which is smaller in file size, and then launch it, and then have all the Steam achievements transfer over. Because it's 2 games for the same game. It gives you the public test client, it's not like a beta or anything. Okay, so currently, my game is 37.24 gigabytes, so it's had a bit of file compression. So the size of it's gone down, but it also had 26 gigs of its files replaced during the time that I've had it. So the game's definitely not polished. Like, they released this prematurely, not polished at all, because there was a lot of game-breaking bugs, and there's still a lot of bugs, like the graphical issues that I showed today. And they fix quite a few of the bugs that I've had. But there's still some times where my game, it decides it goes from like 70 frames a second down to 10. Because a sandworm went over the large spice fields out in the deep desert. The sandworm traveled over it, and the game frame rate just died. And my graphics card, which I have a 40 series graphics card, it struggles with this game. And if I go to the store page, the recommended specs, the minimum required specs, is an Intel Core i5 and a 1060 graphics card. The recommended specs is a 3070 graphics card and an i7. So I have a better graphics card than the recommended stats, and the game still lags that much. The game can't be installed on a hard drive. It is required that the game is installed on an SSD. So it would either have to go onto your main drive, or you would have to have an SSD installed into your system. And the minimum specs also requires 60 gigabytes of available space, even though the file size is only 37 gigabytes. And on the recommended specs, we have 75 gigabytes. And don't get me wrong, that's 75 gigabytes for a game isn't really that much when you consider that GTA is 120 gigabytes. Just GTA 5, nothing else. Like, just pure GTA 5 is 120 gigabytes. But it only requires 125 gigabytes of storage entirely. This game's file size is 37 gigabytes, and it requires close to double on the minimum specs to run, which I think is insane, considering that this is a multiplayer game. And because this is a multiplayer game, your instance doesn't store the data. It gets stored onto the server that you're playing. All my data, it's on this server. If I were to take items into my inventory and join a different server, I would keep the items in my inventory, which is weird. Why does it do that? Because if I join a different server, I expect it to be a different server, not to have to then communicate data to my client, which then communicates back to a new server. Which is insane. I don't understand it. Why can items transfer between servers? Because then it means you could be like very peaceful in one server, and then you could take all your good gear into your inventory, go over to another server, and be an absolute menace, and no one would know. You'd be a good person in this server, and then you'd just be like a chronically online PvP individual in another. So if someone were to try to get revenge, they might not even ever see you again if you choose to not join that server again. Because you can transfer items. So I think that's my take on the game. It's alright, but it definitely needs improvement. For a $70 game that requires almost double its file size on your drive reserved, it's insane. I don't understand it. It really does not need an extra 30 gigabytes of space. I get that there's like logs and all that, but that's nothing. There's no file size that warrants needing double the game's file size. So I think without that, I think I'll leave it here. I don't think I would recommend it, but it's a decent game. I like the story, I like the gameplay, not too much the like late game mechanics of the game where there's just random stuff that's just like, oh hey, by the way, this won't work going across servers. There's a lot of ways that they can fix this stuff. I would recommend them try to fix this stuff, because if they fix this stuff, it'd be a great game. Like, there's a lot of stuff in this game that needs fixing. There's quite a bit of stuff that's, like, not warranted. Like, in a certain area, there's a way that you can die that you won't know until you die. So, I'll leave it here. Bye.